We break down the cornerbacks in this year's draft next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron, and make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube. Also, find the podcast everywhere that you get your podcasts. Just search for Unbearable Sports. Make sure to rate 5 stars as well. It helps out the show tremendously. Hey, pal. How you doing, my friend?
Hello. Hey, Brad. Not too bad. Not too shabby. Yeah, just been feeling a little fancy. Been watching the Masters a lot.
Wow.
It started today. So I'm a big dimple head. That's what people like to say nowadays. But yeah, it's a really good round. My favorite player, Victor Hovland, is on the top of the leaderboard with 7 under. So I'm a happy boy.
I can't help but laugh. But dude, you went from like college to old man in a span of 8 months since graduating.
I know. I don't know what happened.
You read card manuals, you're hardcore about the Masters. Like, man,
yeah, I do love me just watching the Masters and taking naps. It's the best time to take a nap is the Masters.
I feel you there.
I was watching it at work, so I can't be taking naps. But
yeah, for sure. But also some of those on YouTube, you can notice my new light that I just got, the blue light. I was telling PayPal before this, I like blinded myself with this thing. I was setting it up and didn't realize if I change colors, it goes full blast. It's been like 30 minutes and I'm still seeing rectangles. So if I misread anything on the screens, we know why.
Brad just can only hear me. He can't see me right now.
I really can't see anything if I misread people's comments. But I do know that's renewable out there in the comments. So let's get started, though. We are going to be breaking down 5 early round and 5 late round cornerback prospects. I actually think we cheated and added an extra one. So we're going through 12. So we're going to be breaking them all down today. And because corner's actually like a sneaky need. I know not many people are talking about it, but I remember last year, nobody really felt like corner was the main need, right? Everybody wanted Pickens. And then when Gordon went off the board, it's like, what? But we had Kindle Vildor, we had Duke Shelley, we had Jaylon Johnson, and now we still have Kindle Vildor, who was good, right? Like,
yeah.
But Kindle Vildor is going on a contract year, and same thing with Jaylon Johnson. It's wise. Wise GMs always draft for the future. So they might try and target something in the second day or in the third day. But that's why we're going to be covering it.
Yeah, they were that is, I completely agree, because it's like our defensive backs were kind of the positive of our defense. I mean, our front 7 was just horrendous. I mean, until Jack Sanborn came into the picture, it was just an absolute crap show. So it's kind of Jaylon Johnson probably just wants a lot of money. We know how cornerbacks are, of just wanting money and just thinking they're the best guys out there. And it'd be nice having kind of maybe a younger guy come in and maybe show something special, because Kyler Gordon definitely, showed that he could play as a starter this year.
Definitely. And so it'll be very interesting to see what they end up doing, and we're going to be breaking it down. And as we always say, let's just get this out of the way. Kyler Gordon, we don't know if he's going to be a slot or an outside. I prefer outside. PayPal, do you prefer him slot or outside?
I prefer slot, actually.
Okay, there we go. We got both sides.
I think it works better for, honestly, the draft if he was we'll see, I guess. I mean, there's guys that are out there that, I like the slot guy, or there's some outside guys I like better. So yeah, I'm fine with I think Kyler was better at slot just because I like having that physical presence kind of in the slot,
He's a big slot too. You gotta love that. But to me, we'll be breaking down some people and who's all out there, right? Big ones, small ones. We'll talk about that. But Renewable also reminded us, thank you so much. The Bears did sign a defensive end, Rasheem Green, today to a 1-year contract. And he had 3.5 sacks last year with Houston and 6.5 the year before at Seattle. PayPal, any feelings on this or?
Hey, I'm just happy they're adding pieces. Like, sure, they're not, like these all-star players or anything, but it's at least an upgrade from what we had last year. And I think if you keep adding these, guys that have had average to pretty good production, I think it'll kind of, produce, all of them together will create a pretty darn good defensive line.
And one thing that I will say I like about him, or two things actually. I like the inside outside versatility. He's around 280 pounds, so he has that. It seems like we have a type. We like the versatile, the bigger defensive ends, but then also, what I like about him is he plays on the right side. So when we're looking at, so he plays on the opposite side that like Travis Gibson would be playing. So I like that he's. I saw a lot of tape that he was over there. It seems like he can play both sides though. But I do. It's not like I'm amazed by it. That oh my gosh, this is crazy. I think all it does is really just add that added that to the locker room. I mean, but he's 25 years old. He's going to be 26 coming up. So yeah, I think we just need at least another interior and another defensive end, at least, right? But I think if you sign a Yannick Ngakoue, you sign someone like that, now it looks a little bit different. Yeah, I definitely don't think Rasheem Green's going to be like dominating anytime soon, but he just kind of adds that little extra. So
yeah,
we'll see. And yeah, Renewable's right. Travis Gibson just threw out the first pitch at the White Sox game too. I saw that. But yeah, but let's go into these cornerbacks then, shall we? So PayPal, we're going to be going and starting out with the early players. So with the cornerbacks, there's really kind of, I guess you could say, 3 top corners that are out there. We talked about Christian Gonzalez. There's Devin Witherspoon, and there's also Joey Porter Jr. Joey Porter Jr. seems to be more of like the third, but it really seems like Devin Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez are at the top. Now, it depends on what you like, but PayPal, break it down a little bit, like with some of these top corners. Who are you kind of more in favor of if one of these were to drop to the Bears and they wanted to go corner?
Yeah,
I mean, in the draft.
Yeah, if we're talking 9th pick, I mean, yeah, you're only gonna look at Witherspoon. Yeah, it's very rich. You're either gonna look at Witherspoon or Gonzalez. And Witherspoon, I mean, he's really fun to watch on the tape because he just locks down whoever he guards. One of my favorite stats still is he only let up 1 completion last year in press man coverage, which is just absolutely insane. Like in man coverage press, he is an absolute monster. He had 18 forced completions which ties second in the NCAA. And surprisingly to me, like he is aggressive for, being like an undersized corner, like 5'11", 180. He's a willing tackler and he plays very well in the run defense. But yeah, he kind of has that smaller frame. So if he is against a bigger guy, it's like he might get a little grabby. And the weakness too is he's not the best at zone coverage. I mean, at Illinois, they kind of played a lot more man coverage. So that's where I still kind of am leaning towards a Gonzalez. I know we always talk about Gonzalez, but Gonzalez is more that zone guy. And Devon Witherspoon is more of that man coverage guy. And he definitely is going to be a great player in the league, though. I won't doubt that.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Where Witherspoon, I think though, to me, where I get excited about him is like the dog mentality, and I do get nervous about really kind of having that one great year last year. Like he was the best corner in the draft, right? But yeah, like Gonzalez, the only thing that really worries me. He's out of Oregon. He's the best athlete. Like he's the best athlete because he just looks fluid. It just looks natural to him. He's got everything just looks nice, right? Yeah, and that's where like the corners, you really have to like one of these corners in order to be like drafting them at number 9.
Oh
But it
yeah.
is interesting to at least see how this all shakes up, right? If they trade back, let's say there is a corner there. But also it's nice too to understand your trade partners because someone who runs a man heavy system, let's say the Patriots, right? The Patriots might be looking at Witherspoon going, "You are perfect for our scheme. We have to
Mhm.
trade up for this guy. We need this guy like crazy if he drops." So, yeah, it'd be rich for sure. But at the same time too, it they are seen like when looking at the consensus big boards, they are both considered top 9 prospects. So, if
Yep.
one of them is available, it is considered best available if you were drafting them. Because they are consensus some of the best players in the draft.
Yeah, and I think with kinda how, the Bears have been visiting with, we've been seeing who they've been visiting with, and it seems like Paris Johnson kinda seems, at least for me, I'm, like,
Yeah.
officially in on Paris Johnson now, even though every freaking mock draft of, like, these professional, you know, football analysts, like, they always have the Bears picking Peter Skronsky. It's like, we don't want him. We
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
want him. He's a guard.
I thought it was I forgot what another Bears show did a poll with, like, their audience, and I was fascinated to find that now the entire train, like, Bears fandom,
Yeah.
it was only, like, 7% wanted Skoronski. It was crazy, crazy low. Everybody seemed to switch over to, Paris Johnson. But
Mhm.
also too, I've seen, like, Bijan Robinson, and they're like, "Well, you don't have a running back." It's like, "Yeah, that's by design." Like, we'll get one later, like the
Yeah.
rest of the world. And yeah, so speaking though of people that the Bears have talked to, let's go over to day 2 because I'll just like lightly bring this up though. There's a lot of good corner talent at the end of the first round. It's splattered all over there. But really, let's go to day 2 and talk about some of these players. And someone that the Bears have talked to in their top 30 visits that they can have is Tyreek Stevenson, cornerback out of Miami, junior, 6 foot, 198 pounds. So instantly you're like, is the size that you want to play an outside corner, around 200 pounds. That's a good size. His biggest strength, though, is his length. His arms are gigantic. I think it's 33.5-inch arms or 33 and a quarter.
Wow.
So very long arms at that cornerback position. As you can imagine, long arms. He's able to play a lot of that press coverage that we want to play inside of like a cover 2 very well. But also just some comps out there. James Bradbury, he's also projected to go in that second round, so he might be available for the Bears. But the big weakness is his burst, his twitch. I think we might have lightly talked about him when we were breaking down the combine. It is the combine, but there is something to be said when you see them all together. And Tyreek Stevenson looked slow. He didn't have that burst. And yes, he tested phenomenally, but I believe that his short shuttle and stuff like that did not do well. And that really shows on tape. It shows at the combine. He just doesn't have that good change of direction. So that's where, as a zone cover corner, looks a lot better, but it's that man coverage ability that, yes, we might be a zone heavy scheme. We're still going to be running man to man concepts. We're not playing zone
Mhm.
every single time. So built for press, built for zone, but there's questions about that change of direction and burst that he has. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's something especially for these cornerbacks, I know we talked about it before the show, like, it is really important to kinda look at these corners and be like, "Alright, yeah, Witherspoon, he's more of a press man guy," he's not more of
yeah,
like a zone heavy guy. So, something like this, I mean, Tyreek Stevens, his negatives aren't as drastic, say, if he was gonna play for, like, Miami, where they're always playing man coverage, they're always
yeah,
doing cover 0 and just blitzing and, so which is funny 'cause he's from Miami, but
yeah.
it
Other Miami,
the
yeah.
Dolphins, yeah, but, yeah, so it's something to take, and I don't mind him, he's not the most fun to be on tape, but yeah, he met with the Bears, so I think that takes an account of that we're at least interested in him.
Yeah, and you and I kind of talked a little bit about this before the show. I know my take on it, and we'll break down the rest. I'm not super, super high on any of these day two corners. Like, not jumping for joy, like, oh my God, we gotta pound the table for this guy. There's a couple, good ones, but I think there's some talent later on that the Bears can be trying to get. But let's go to the next one that was actually mocked to the Bears. When we did our mock draft, our live mock
Twice.
draft and our sim. Yeah, mock to the Bears twice. So is it is it going to actually happen? PayPal, what can you tell me about DJ Turner?
Yeah. Is it destiny? I mean, if hey, Brad, if you think Kyler Gordon is an outside corner, I think this would be kind of his perfect slot corner.
Okay.
He almost looks like he's got that like same hair and like
Yeah.
everything as Kyler Gordon. But yeah, I think he'd be, corner out of Michigan, DJ Turner, senior, 5'11", 178. Avante Maddox is definitely a very good comparison to him because he's a lightweight corner, very, very fast. He had a 4.26 40, and the thing that really like got me was his 10 yard was 1.42, which is like the highest of the class. So he's not just like a sprinter, like some of these guys can run straight line really fast, but their acceleration isn't quick. He can get to 100 really fast. Like he's basically Tesla. But yeah, he's a great player. I think of Kyler Gordon, where you'd see this guy in film where he might, have an error. A guy might kind of go past him, might blow past him, but because he has this speed, he can catch up. Which obviously you don't want him using that too much, but it helps and if you do have an error or if someone does beat you, that's inevitable. Like a wide receiver will kind of beat you in this league, and having that catch up speed is very useful. So he'd be a great slot position. It's just kind of that size, and yeah, I think he's good. I know I was hearing some people had kind of knocked his like deceleration because he is so fast, he wouldn't be able to decelerate and kind of like
I'll take that. Yeah.
change angles, I guess. Like he wouldn't be able to like stop and then, go. But I like him. It's just kind of getting that second round corner. I'm always kind of hesitant on.
Yeah, and I think what I also think about him, he kind of reminds me of Eric Stokes coming out, the Green Bay uh, cornerback that they ended up drafting in the first round. But that's where
Yeah.
DJ Turner, you're hoping that you get more in the second round. Third round is second, third, like in the back, where the Bears are picking is really where he's supposed to be going. And yeah, like you said Stokes would always catch up to them using his speed. That's what Turner's doing. But you look at his percentage, his completion percentages 46.5 in 2022 and 44.1% in 2021. So he's doing something right with his speed. But yeah, I always get nervous about just the physicality, right? The
Yeah.
physical position. We want to play physical football. And there's a couple times that when he hits someone, they don't move, or they move, they keep on moving
move
forward
him.
type of thing. They don't
Yeah.
move back. Yeah, they don't. And that's where what type of a corner do we want? I would imagine bigger and more physical, like a Kyler Gordon, who's going to push you back. That's where I, I don't. I think that he's just definitely speed, and he's got a lot of great traits.
Yeah, and yeah, if it fits kind of our scheme. Yeah, not a bad player. I think he'd be a really fun player to have, like having kind of those two really great athletes in Kyler Gordon and DJ Turner kind of out there. It'd be a lot of fun. Because Jaylon Johnson is one of those guys, he does not, kill you with his athleticism. Like he's more of a smart kind of,
True.
position player, So it'd be kind of fun going towards the athletic route.
Yeah. So the next guy that I have on this list, not a lot of people are talking about him. I think he's going to be a good fit for the Bears. That's Eli Ricks, cornerback out of Alabama, junior, 6'2", 188. So he's got the size, he's got the length, he's got the long arms. Perfect for what we want to try and do last year. 31.6% completion percentage. He's projected to go in the third round. He played at LSU for 2 seasons before transferring over to Alabama. His first year, though, he looked to be the best corner, kind of like a Stingley type of thing, where Derek Stingley looked to be the best corner his freshman year, and then kind of fell off. The reason why he can go in the third round is injuries. He's been banged up. And only started 4 games for Alabama. So, yeah,
Wow.
he did really well, but he's been banged up. And yeah, his first season as a freshman, he had 4 interceptions, and I think his PFF grade was like 85.5. It was something crazy. And good press coverage guy, made for the cover 2 system, third best forced incompletion percentage, 36.8. This guy is good. The biggest question, though, is his injuries. So he's someone that you can take a flyer on later on in the draft if you feel like everything is there with this guy, because like we said, some of these day 2 prospects I'm not jumping for joy about, but Eli Ricks to me has a good ceiling on him if everything kind of checks out from a medical perspective and an injury perspective, because there's a reason why he was one of the top recruits coming out of high school.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because when I think of a guy like this, he had great success, but the injuries where we're not
Yeah.
always accurate where people are projected. We can see people that drop, multiple rounds sometimes. And I remember when we got Thomas Graham Jr., he was supposed to be like a second rounder, and then we got him in the 6th, and that was because he didn't play in COVID and like all this, injury, whatever, all this stuff. So I honestly, if Eli Ricks, I could see him kind of dropping and maybe kind of be that risky player, like you kind of said, that we get later
And what I
on.
am really curious about too is the Bears pushed away oh gosh, the defensive tackle, right?
Oh,
And yeah, and so for the Bears, I'm assuming that their training staff is going to be very locked in on, all right, if there's any medical red flags, you're off the board, right?
yeah,
They're not
yeah.
they're not going to be wanting to take a chance on any of these players. So I could see him being off the Bears board, but that's where if he is, I know that they did their due diligence. I know that they looked at him and that he's a green light. So that's also one thing too. As you watch the draft, if you're seeing a player like Eli Ricks just plummet down and no one's drafting him, now you know it's because of the question mark on just injuries, and very similar to like the Derek Stingley thing. Great freshman season, but then really hasn't been able to duplicate as much success as he did before.
Yeah.
So that's where you're kind of betting on some of that upside. That's where he's more warranted for those later round picks.
Yeah.
But let's go, because we've been talking about outside guys. DJ Turner could be someone on the inside. This guy really does seem to be, it seems like he's going to be available for the Bears at that's round 2, round 3. And he seems to be like the day 2 slot corner that's available. PayPal, what can you tell me about Clark Phillips?
Yeah, slot corner that, I mean, he didn't play slot too much. That's where people kind of like knock, like he was just a very undersized outside corner. But Clark Phillips, sophomore, out of Utah, 5'9", 184. He's compared to Mike Hilton. Projected in the 3rd round. First thing that just jumps out to me is like, we got another Utah corner if we really want. I don't know if Jaylon Johnson knows him at all, but that'd be another Utah corner. Maybe that could just bring some chemistry into the locker room and maybe revive Jaylon Johnson a little bit more, because sometimes he doesn't seem like how he was the first 2 years we had him. But Clark Phillips is a really great guy to have. This is where DJ Turner isn't that aggressive guy that we want. Clark Phillips, he's very aggressive, very high motor, attacks downhill with good angles, and great ball hawking ability. I mean, he had 9 career interceptions and with 4 touchdowns. So he can take it to the house almost like a rookie Eddie Jackson. If he gets a pick, he's gonna take it to the house. So like great tackler as well. he's got all of it except he's undersized, and that's the big thing that people knock him for is his height, his arm length, so he can't really play that press coverage, but he'll be a slot. Like he's got everything else. It's just that size. So honestly, if he drops to the third, that would be I think a steal if someone's only knock is their arm length.
So I'll chime in too because I was expecting to be impressed with him because it
Yeah.
seems like he was someone that was supposed to go before the Bears picks and he's been slightly dropping. Yeah, 29-inch arms on this guy. Like
Whew.
very, very small arms, but you look at it, 17% career missed tackle rate. Yeah, he's a corner, but that's really bad. Like he's
Yeah.
not great at tackle. Like he's aggressive. He, like you said, he could attack, but that's the thing that kind of gets me scared. He had a 37 tackling grade from PFF. I think he's got great traits, and I don't know if if he would be worth it. But he does seem to be kind of like the slot guy if you want to really go after someone on day two. Um,
Yeah.
but
I think something with the tackling, and I hope I wonder if Eberflus and Poles think of, I think this is important too because there's a guy later on that kind of has the same problem with tackling, where like, do they feel comfortable bringing in a guy that can't tackle and being like,
yeah,
we can teach these guys how to tackle because we did it last year. We were terrible at tackling, and then they taught them the hits principle, all that stuff, and then we were not missing tackles, and well, not as much as we were in the beginning of the season. Um, so I wonder if they feel comfortable bringing in a guy like this with the shorter arms, where that just does not help uh, his tackling ability at all.
and you know what? Before this, I should have just totally grabbed the corners that they got at Indy and just be like, here's the guys, here's the templates that they'll be looking at and just copy
Yeah.
paste, right? Let's go to our last kind of day early round stuff, and then I'm excited to go through the later round stuff because I think that's where I'm hoping that the Bears go in the
Yep.
draft. But I would not be surprised if they get someone day two because they do have 3 day 2 picks, 2 in the second, 1 in the third, or like 1 early third. But let's go. Last one, Julius Brents, 6'3", 198 out of Kansas State,
Whew.
very tall. You already know what I'm gonna say. He's got the long arms, he's tall, he's the size that you want for a press corner. So great scheme fit. And reminds me a little bit of Tremaine Johnson. His biggest weakness is like speed, burst. The dude doesn't have it. Like you watch,
Mhm.
he's got the most vanilla tape out there because you watch him play. He does not have that pop to it does not have that like quickness to his game that you would want. That's where he's definitely not a man coverage corner because he doesn't have that long speed. He doesn't have the short speed really either, but is a good fit for what the Bears are trying to do in the zone perspective. Seems to be more of that first, second round pick. That's where I think it might be a little rich for my blood to go after a corner when it's like go defensive end there, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but he could potentially drop as well. But he's good in run defense, 17th most press coverage snaps, so he has played it a lot. But yeah, I just like him in the scheme. Just
Yeah.
I just don't love it if the Bears were to draft him.
Yeah, he has, like, a good floor, like, I don't think he'd be terrible, but it would be kinda like yeah, having someone that's not quick always like, I love the Bears getting turnovers, like, that was
Yeah,
another emphasis was get turnovers, and when you have a guy that's not able to jump to the ball and, create turnovers, that is kind of a red flag of, even though he is playing in zone, is he going to be able to jump to the ball and play those angles, play those routes?
he did have 4 interceptions, so I will give him credit there. Like he did get some good ball production, but yeah, like to your point, that quickness is just a little bit since yeah, if you don't have that quickness, it becomes a little scary
Yeah.
to say the least.
And yeah, if he's looking and honestly, when you look slow in college film, when everyone else is kind of slower, it's like how slow are you going to look around NFL players?
True, true. It Yeah, he ran a 4.53, but you look at all
Okay.
his other athletic testing, he's actually above the 90th percentile in three cone and vertical jump, broad jump. So he's got the physical traits. It's that long speed. That's
Okay.
really like so that's where we will see what they end up doing there. But I hope that they wait till the end. I hope that they wait till day 3. Let's break down some day 3 targets because I know Reload out there, he was saying, hey, what about these O-line, D-line? That's where, and I agree with Renewable with this, where they're probably trying to build this full, complete roster where they're looking at the whole, like, okay, let's try and find some of these corners. I could see
Yeah.
them going, like I said, with one of their day 2 picks. But the day 3, there's some talent out there that I would love for the Bears to get. And one of the people that the Bears have been talking a lot to, this has been coming up. We have not talked about this guy yet. And that's Darius Rush, cornerback, South Carolina, senior, 6'2", 198. I swear it's not the
Perfect.
same weight as everyone else. I guess everybody decided to weigh in the same weight. They have the same dietitian, I guess. But
Yep.
Darius Rush reminds me of Cordera Tankersley, and projected in the 4th round. His strength is his ball skills. This guy is a former wide receiver, and as you would expect, a former wide receiver, the dude can track the ball very well. Great ball skills out there. The weakness, though, he's raw, just like you would expect from a former wide receiver. Very new to the position, so his back pedal looks a little clumsy. The way that he gets in and out and kind of tracks the wide receiver, I mean, is a little, it's not perfect, but he's still
Mhm.
very good. He does have a bad habit of being a little bit of a long strider, which can be challenging when you have to cut in and out to track someone down. But all that being said, 17.9% open target rate. What that means is he had his person open on 17.9% of times that he was covering him. That was 5th best among cornerbacks in the Power 5 conferences. So
Wow.
very good out there for someone who's only played 2 years at cornerback. And with his size, with his length, with his speed, this guy checks a lot of boxes that I think that the Bears could fall in love with. That's why you see them talking to him. And if you can get this guy in the 4th round, and you want him to be that outside corner and then shift, then shift Kyler down to the slot. I really like this player as someone that you're getting day 3 that can really, and also I forgot this too. He looked good in the Senior Bowl. And we know
Yeah.
Ryan Poles loves his Senior Bowl guys. He looked good out there. So this guy was climbing up draft boards. I think he checks kind of all the boxes for the Bears. And I think that they should pull the trigger if he is available in the 4th round to get that player at the cornerback position. So earlier rounds, you can get more of the pressing needs out there.
Yeah, 2 things Foles loves, Senior Bowl guys, and he loves picking late round guys that only had, few experience at the role, like Demarcus Robinson, you know?
Yeah. He's like,
Yeah,
wait, he
don't
played a
please don't
different position? Sign me up.
please please don't tell me Darius Rush, was a quarterback or something, or, you didn't play quarterback for,
Yeah.
like,
In middle
in high
school.
school or yeah, in high school or something. Please don't tell me.
Yeah.
But
In
yeah,
middle school.
yeah,
Yeah.
I like him. I think he's definitely would be a fun, and that's where I like these later round guys because the other corners, it's like we don't need that just yet, but taking kind of this prospect hit would be kind of what this team needs. We don't need to take a bigger, talented guy right now where, Vildor can do his job if he needs to,
Yeah.
like this year. So someone like this can develop under these guys.
And they loved Vildor like last year. I remember in training
Oh
camp, everyone
yeah.
was going crazy about Kindle Vildor, and all of us are like, seriously? Really? And
Yeah,
then
we
he
hated
came
him.
out and he was good. Like he wasn't great, but he didn't suck.
Yeah.
And it was sad that his season got cut short because it was nice to at least see him out there. But PayPal, you're talking about love. And there is one guy that I know that you and I both love. If you have on this podcast, you know who this guy is. Travius Hodges,
THT.
THT out here.
THT.
Reminds me of Tim Jennings' PayPal. Break it down. Well, let's break him down again. This might be the last time we break him down, but break him down.
Yeah. You gotta just love anyone in purple jerseys, to be honest.
It looks darn good.
Yeah, but yeah, senior out of TCU, Travius Hodges Tomlinson, biggest knock, and that's the thing. You gotta look at the negatives and be like, okay, does this really affect the defense or in the position that he'll play in our defense? He's 5'8", 178, not a big guy. He's very small. But one thing I love about him is he plays just with like a winning mentality. He has that high motor. He's very aggressive, and he's a willing tackler. Sometimes he plays a little too aggressive, and that's where he had 14 penalties last year, and he had 10 of those penalties in 13 games. So he was just racking up penalties like no tomorrow. But maybe the NFL, they'll be like, all right, that's Tomlinson. He just plays aggressive. We won't flag him,
Okay, you're going conspiracy theory out
yeah,
here.
I'm going.
I see it.
Because who's the guy that just got drafted on the Jets? Oh man, Sauce Gardner.
Sauce, yeah.
I think Sauce plays way too aggressive. That's just me. But because it's Sauce, they're like, oh no, he knows how to cover. We're not gonna flag him. They could be like, oh, because he's LaDainian Tomlinson's like cousin or whatever. We won't flag him. But yeah, very aggressive player. That's where he led college football with 21 forced incompletions. Very good at press, even though, or not, just kidding. He's not good at press. This is a shorter guy. He's got short arms. We know where that goes because he got short arms, not the best tackler and not the best at press. So that's something we'll have to work on. And honestly, it seems kind of that's the story. If you are going to have a guy kind of the size at slot, it's going to be their arm size if they can really tackle. But that's what we talked about before. Like, can Poles and can Eberflus really be like, this is a coachable guy? I mean, he won the 2022 Jim Thorpe Award. I mean, he's doing something right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a reason. Like, he's doing something right. So I think this guy's coachable. I think he has that mentality that the Bears want, and he's just not going to let up, which you just have to respect whenever a guy plays like that.
I think it's also fair to say when you draft day 3, you shouldn't expect these people to be starters. It's rare that they become Braxton Jones and start every single snap. Like Hodges Tomlinson, he's dropping, like you said, for his size, but at the position he's going to be playing, that's not necessarily perfect, but that's what you expect out of a slot corner. So yeah, I think that this is someone you could draft and just kind of put him in at that slot role. The tape is different. We're going to talk about these other people. Hodges Tomlinson has different tape compared to the other people that we're going to be talking about in this day 3. So yeah, I agree. I think that he would be a great player for the Bears, I think overall. But let's go to another player. This is someone who's very fast that I've seen kind of go in that 4th round too. Jacorian Bennett, cornerback out of Maryland, 5'11", 188. So bigger type of a build, 5'11". Junior reminds me a little bit of Orlando Scandrick. And his big strength, he's fast. 4.30, 40 times. So very, very fast. Should go around the 4th round. This is where, truth be told, I'm not a huge fan of him. Watching his tape, it's weird because he's fast, but his biggest weakness is deep ball coverage. And remember how we were talking about DJ Turner, where he uses his speed to kind of catch up to the receiver. Jacorian Bennett does that too much. He's got massive ups. He's got great speed, but he lets people by him. Like if he's doing press, it seems like he doesn't know what he's doing. It seems like Madden. Like when someone stinks at press coverage and they just let somebody blow by them and it's like unrecoverable. That's what Jacorian Bennett does. He just lets them by. There's no hope in it, but he's able to get back to him. In the NFL, that's not going to fly. And that's where I get a little bit nervous about him. I'd rather go with those other players than this guy, but he does have good ball production. Like I said, he's got a lot of lot of ups, but also I don't think he projects best to the Bears scheme. But the reason why I wanted to bring him up is because there's a lot of people that are high on him. And it might be, well,
Mhm.
why isn't he going to the Bears? I just don't think he's a good scheme fit. And I don't like to feel like I'm just trashing on someone, but I just don't think that he's necessarily great for the Bears. But he does have phenomenal speed, and that's where it's his real big
Yeah.
plus. With coaching, he could be good, but
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where it comes down. Yeah, is he coachable? Is he someone that they think, loves the game? Because I know that's their big, if the guy doesn't love the game, then the Bears don't want him. Like that's what Poles and Eberflus both said. So yeah, if let's see if he's coachable. If he's not, let's pass on him.
because he was one of Nomad's guys. Yeah, I didn't love it. Like he just there's some things that I just didn't think that it looked good on tape. Didn't look great. Doesn't really understand like zone concepts too well. Like he just seemed to be off when it came down to
Yeah.
zones. Like he just didn't feel watching the tape, it just didn't seem like he felt comfortable out there with it. So to me, he's kind of a pass when you have other people out there, right? You have other people
Yeah.
that are better fits. If you have all these fourth round talents, that's where not the biggest fan. But let's go over to someone, PayPal, that I know that you brought this guy up during the combine. He looks smooth out there, and that was Riley Moss, projected to go in the
Yeah.
5th round. What can you tell me about him?
Yeah, that was my little experiment. I did I played a role as Brad's wife basically during the combine, and I just
When you put it that way, that's really weird.
yeah. I and if people don't know what that means, I literally just I didn't know anyone for the cornerbacks, and I just watched it and kind of like looked at him like, who are the guys that really stood out to me? And Riley Moss is one that he stood out to me
He
because
looked
of
good.
his yeah, he looked
He looked
good.
very fluid.
Yeah, he looked very fluid. Like he looked like he really knew what he was doing. He not saying he was like Christian Gonzalez, but Christian Gonzalez is
Yeah.
one of those guys too that I was like, this guy looks really fluid. Like he looks confident out there. He's showing me something. So yeah, Riley Moss, senior from Iowa, 6'1", 193, great size out of the corner. And honestly, there's a lot of positives. I think he just fits really well in this scheme. Very tough, very, very aggressive tackler. He has that he wants to tackle. And that's where he's not the best tackler. That's where I know I was going to bring this up of, yeah, can this guy become a better tackler? He doesn't have those shorter arms like kind of the slot guys that we were talking about earlier, like THT. He has those longer arms.
Oh no, I
It's
I
now
just looked at it. He actually has it's 30-inch arms. I got you.
30-inch arms.
There.
At least it's not in the 20s.
Yeah.
But he's not the best arms, but still, it's all right. But I mean, you saw it in the combine. He had great ball skills, knows football. He has a smart IQ when he's playing in zone coverage. And one of his knocks too, like, is he's not able to play man coverage, and that's where I think of the negative like that, and it's like we do not play man coverage that much. Like it's used not very often in our scheme. So Riley Moss not being at man coverage isn't that like huge negative to me as for other teams. So I like him. I think he's a very fluid player, and to fit the scheme, if we can just teach him to tackle, then we'll be good.
Yeah, Moss is definitely really interesting because of I think he has over like 2,000 snaps. He's played like crazy, and yeah, played all the time in Iowa. Iowa, very heavy zone coverage type of a team. And this is where I feel like there's different reports because I think like PFF likes his quickness and some other draft scouts out there don't like his quickness. I'm one that I don't love his quickness. I don't think he's got great burst. It's like he's fluid, but I still question like his start stop, like put your foot in the ground and go. That's where my big question is like kind of where does he sit, right? Is he more of a box guy? Is he more on the outside? But yeah, he just seems to be really good in his zone system. That's where if you can get him in the 5th round, it's a very intriguing prospect, very has a lot of experience out there. So yeah, I think 5th round, yet again, you don't expect much out of them. I think that could be a good selection for the Bears. Um,
Mhm.
but let's go over to another player that actually let's finish up with this guy, and then maybe if we want to go one more, we can. This guy though is the epitome of special teamer. I wanted to bring this guy up because of the Northwestern connection, and that's Cameron Mitchell, cornerback out of Northwestern, junior, 5'11, 191. This guy screams special teams. And I'm not a big fan of like drafting someone for special teams, but I wanted to call him out because there is that Chicago connection. Projected to go in the 5th round, and his weakness is really the speed. The he's not very fast. Also his completion percentage, everyone that we've been talking about has been like sub 50%. Cameron
Mhm.
Mitchell's was 58% last year for
Oof.
for Northwestern. Not great. But I will say this though. He has like odd strength at 191 where it just seemed like he could push these wide receivers back with ease. We've talked about other 191s where they're not moving anybody. They're not moving wide receivers. They're not moving people when they're tackling them. Cameron Mitchell moves people. So that's where it's like, yeah, you see him, you're like, this dude is a special teamer. He played special teams for Northwestern. But when I watch him, what role could he fit in an actual defense? And I like the concept of him being kind of a box safety.
Mm.
Smart, good head on his shoulders, looks good in a zone heavy system, not a man type of a guy. So if he's down inside of that box, I really like what Mitchell kind of brings in that essence, right? Not pounding the table for him, but just letting you know kind of what he is, because he just doesn't seem to have the athleticism to be a true outside. This is someone that might be more of a box type of a safety if the Bears were to go that route. Could be a sneaky like DHC replacement if they wanted that special teamer with box safety type of an upside. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah. I like him. Yeah, he'd be a nice. Yeah, I think if he has kind of that, if you're good at special teams, at least you have a role, So
yeah.
there's something there. And yeah, he's from Illinois, he played football in Illinois, so that's always a good good comparison right there.
And you know what? Let's go one more. Let's go the last one because we added this guy out here because I added Darius Rush last minute and I did say 12. Let's go with Mekhi Blackman. Last guy out here, projected to go in the 5th round. So another later round corner. USC senior, 5'11, 178, had a PFF grade of 90.6 overall. That was 4th highest out of all corners in the NCAA, according to PFF. So why is he projected to go in the 5th round if, the tape score essentially looked really good, right? He's
Mhm.
very aggressive, but he just doesn't have the strength. And to me, he does project a little bit more to a slot corner, but he does kind of bounce off. Like this guy, when I saw him tackle, he did not move the guy at all. Like the guy was not phased. He's paper bag tackling where he just keeps running it. He just kind of trips over them. He's aggressive and he's trying,
Yeah,
he's starting
he's
to.
gonna get stiff-armed and trucked a lot,
That's
probably.
my biggest concern, at least with him. And 5'11 is kind of that no man's land. But PayPal, you watched him too. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I mean, yeah, he's very aggressive. Um, and that's the thing where the aggressiveness sometimes it's like, all right, is that a positive or a negative? Like it goes both ways for players, and it's like it's nice being aggressive, like in the run game, tackling, but when you're too aggressive, like passing, he just seemed a little like too grabby to me. I think that was something that kind of stuck out to me. Um, and yeah, he's just not the best athlete like you think of, being that 5'11. If he is going to be a slot, you want him to be like super fast or, at least have some strength or something. But he really doesn't have that. If he, lacking strength, he doesn't really have that insane speed that you hope for.
Yeah, and I'm just looking this guy up too because he does remind me of someone that came out last year out of Arizona State. I think it was John Jones. Kind of actually reminds me a little bit of him. he ended up being, or no, not John Jones. Yeah, the other Jones out of Arizona State, which ended up being a very good player for the New England Patriots because he kind of has a similar build, very light, but he can play the pass very well. And that's where in the 5th round, I'm more than happy taking a swing on this guy because of that potential upside in the coverage, from a coverage perspective. But yeah, like I also feel a little bit better if it is just some weight, right? Can you add a little bit more weight? Because just looking at the picture of him, right? There's no definition in those arms, or like compared to the other guys who are looking, the dude could probably add a little bit more weight, but beef up a little bit more. But it's definitely someone to look at in that 5th round. But
yeah. And this is just me being a stupid football fan, but like just solely his name's kind of cool. Like, take a shot at him. Like, hi, Blackman. How can he not be a good player? You know, he's gonna make it.
All the Mackay's out there. It's just
Kai Blackman. It's just a cool name.
Yeah, but not Malachi's. For some reason, Malachi always sounds super cool, but they never end up doing anything. Every Malachi known to man does seems really good, but doesn't do much. But that does it though for our cornerback preview. If we missed somebody, yet again, we were trying to go for 10. We ended up getting 2 bonus ones out there. Let us know who you like down below in the comments, because there's so many out there, especially corners, especially the wide receivers. But on Monday, we will be doing a mock draft. Make sure to stay tuned for that, and we'll be breaking it down. We want to get your opinions as we break down that mock draft. But ladies and gents, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to download the podcast everywhere that you get your podcast. Just search for Unbearable Sports. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bad chick.